Holy smokes, folks, we have a ton to talk about in regards to Tesla stock. There's a ton of great news out there, as well as some burning issues that I want to go ahead and touch on in regards to Tesla and the Cybertruck, and then also talk about my outlook for Tesla stock going towards the end of December. But first off, I want to highlight something I shared earlier on YouTube, which is a chart showing stocks that have resulted in the highest financial losses for short sellers in 2023, and here we clearly see that Tesla gets the medal for first place. And look guys, this completely makes sense, especially when you take a look at Tesla stock year to date. We see that Tesla is up about 133.62% for the entire year of 2023. And so the bears who were shorting Tesla all year long are starting to look a little bit like this. But one of the things we also often hear is how Tesla has been flat in the last 3 years. For example, if you take a look at this chart over here, we see Tesla prices in December back in 2020. And then if we look at Tesla prices in this December of 2023, it's pretty much flat. But here's the thing guys, if you're a long-term investor for Tesla and you keep adding in, or if you're someone who simply just trades Tesla, right? I participate in both. I'm a long-term investor, I have a long-term portfolio, but I also have a separate short-term trading account. And regardless on which category you fall in, or if you contribute to both, you participate doing both types of activity, you could still be up a significant amount, you know, in regards to Tesla throughout the last 4 years. For example, if you pull out the average down calculator for Tesla and you bought 100 shares each year from 2020 to 2023 at random prices, you would still be up a significant amount. For example, if we look over here, I put in this calculator just 100 shares in 2020 at $156, 100 shares in 2021 at $215 a share, 100 shares bought in 2022 at $179 a share, and then lastly 100 shares bought in 2023 at $173 a share. And if you add that all up together and you calculate that using that averaging down calculator, you would have a total amount of 400 shares with an average cost of $180.75, which is pretty much a great gain, especially if you see where Tesla's sitting at today, which is about a 40% gain in the last few years, which is not terrible. It's actually pretty decent for Tesla. And of course, this isn't just me picking the absolute bottoms of each year. If you did that, right, then of course the number would be much more higher. You just could pick random times just in the few years, just adding in 100 shares. And of course, the averaging down method would help you be up on Tesla. Of course, if you go ahead and look at areas of confirmation, where to identify that area of an uptrend after a significant drawdown, then of course you could be much more higher for Tesla. But I'm just talking about random prices, and you still see Tesla doing fairly well. Now, if you take a look at Tesla stock in the last few months, we see that Tesla has done tremendously well, which by the way is pretty much in sync with everything I've talked about on this channel before. And again, if you guys are not following this channel, consider tapping that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future video. Because if you guys have been following this channel, then you guys know that I talked about October being the bottom for Tesla, and one of the things I talked about was November being a strong month, and that is exactly what we saw. We saw Tesla stock tremendously rise up during November. But then moving into December, one of the things I talked about was that December was most likely going to be starting off as a sideways moving month, but ultimately close higher. And if we take a look at December, that's exactly what we got. We had Tesla stock moving sideways due to some conflicting labor data. And then of course, afterwards, we saw Tesla stock continue to push upwards. And look guys, you can check out for yourself. I mean, I don't delete any videos. I think it's important to have something on record to kind of stand on. And so if you guys want to check out previous videos, you guys could pretty much see that the path I talked about for Tesla going into December was pretty clear. And so the remainder of December, I still see ultimately some more upside going into the overall markets as well for Tesla. Now, we also had a ton of other great ideas for November and December, which were exclusive for the Push and Profit private group, which by the way, if you guys don't know what that is, that's essentially a group where you have access to my daily briefings, as well as the lesson library and a tremendous amount of other benefits as well. And if you want to be able to be a part of in the Push and Profit private group, make sure to check out this coupon link in the description below, because it's going to expire on Christmas Day, where initially you get to join the Push and Profit private group for just $21 or $22 a month for the first 2 months. And of course, you could cancel at any single time. And so, of course, if you enjoy the benefits of being within the Push and Profit private group, of course, you're going to want to stay in longer. But make sure to take advantage of this current offer we have expiring on Christmas Day. Now, further in this video, I want to go ahead and talk about Tesla stock and look at it from a deeper perspective, looking at it from a technical perspective, as well as just highlighting some of the catalysts that we want to be aware of going into the end of December. But before we do so, I also want to talk about a concerning or burning issue that I haven't talked about with Tesla or the Cybertruck on this channel before. See, one of the things you have to understand and be aware of is that you never want to be inside of an echo chamber. And so what do I mean by this? Well, essentially, when you kind of surround yourself with a lot of individuals who think like you and agree with you, sometimes you don't get to see the other perspective, which provides a lot of insight on what you are currently doing in regards to the overall market. For example, I recently read this book by Ray Dalio, who's a legendary fund manager, and in that book, there's a section where he talks about appreciating the art of thoughtful disagreement. And he goes on to say that when two people believe opposite things, chances are that one of them is wrong, and it pays out to find out if that person is you. And so, being that I talk about Tesla stock very often on this channel, I'm very much surrounded by a lot of individuals who only talk good about Tesla stock, which is okay, right? But there is a lot of zealotry in regards to Tesla stock, and I like to often kind of distance myself from that and kind of see the opposing view, or what, people think about Tesla stock from a negative perspective. And I had this conversation recently about the Cybertrucks with someone who totally is against Tesla and doesn't really like the Cybertruck, and is also a pickup truck owner. And there was some interesting things that he mentioned that I think we have to kind of be aware about in regards to Tesla. For example, one of the things I mentioned on this channel a copious amount of times is the fact that the Tesla Cybertrucks are going to increase the TAM for Tesla, which is the total addressable market. And a multitude of different times on the channel, I talked about how lightweight pickup trucks are pretty much the largest selling types of vehicles in America. Americans love pickup trucks. And so we talked about that in the past, and I said, hey, the Cybertruck is going to meet that demand that America needs for EV pickup trucks. Of course, you already have some of the competitors out there, but I said that this is going to be great for Tesla. But this individual that I was talking to kind of mentioned that it's not really the case in terms of pickup trucks and EVs and Tesla. And I was kind of a little interested in this. And one of the things he mentioned, right, and again, he owned a pickup truck, is that a large majority of people that purchase pickup trucks purchase them for its utility, for its working purposes. Now, of course, this is not new to me. We all know that many individuals who drive pickup trucks use them for the utility that they provide. I mean, if you go down the road, you see pickup trucks hauling a lot of trailers. I mean, I used to have a guy that cut the grass, and he had a trailer in the back that had a John Deere in there and some other equipment. You often see people who do pavers or maybe do roofing, etc. It doesn't matter what type of industry, painting, whatever you want to call it, right? A lot of working class individuals or businesses utilize pickup trucks to go ahead and do business. And so I said, well, that's fine, because the Cybertruck is going to be able to still do that. In fact, I highlighted this part that Tesla mentioned on their website on how the Tesla Cybertruck is going to be able to travel 340 miles on a single charge, which is well enough to get you into the back country and beyond. And then Tesla also goes on to say that to recover up to 136 miles of range with just 15 minutes of supercharging. And so, as I was mentioning the benefits of the Cybertruck and how it could contribute to those individuals in that niche that need trucks for its utility, he mentioned that it's not entirely the case, and that legacy pickup trucks are still superior in terms of using them for work. And he went on to mention that, yeah, that's cool that the Cybertruck can do that, but with a legacy pickup truck, you could fill up its tank in just 5 minutes. And in terms of using it for business purposes, if you have a job or a job site that's 400 miles away, fine, you could get there in a Cybertruck. But if you need to come back home or go to another job site, you don't want to wait 30 minutes or more to go ahead and fully return home. And so by having a legacy pickup truck that fills up on its gas in just 5 minutes, that makes all the difference on making it on time for a different job site or making it on time for home before supper with the family. And so that was something that was pretty interesting because I didn't really consider that, right? Because of course, if you're using it for work purposes, well, there's, time efficiency that you want to put in place in terms of get the job done. And that's still a challenge that the Cybertruck still needs to work on. Now, I think that's going to improve in the future, and the real challenge right now is scaling the Cybertrucks. But of course, one of the things we understand is that there's a lot of demand with them, with, of course, Elon Musk mentioning that there's over 1 million reservations, and so the real challenge is actually getting the Cybertrucks and manufacturing them and scaling them up and ramping it up, whatever, to go ahead and meet that demand of individuals who already put reservations for them. So I don't think that's necessarily a problem right now, but it is in the future if you actually want to catch that entire pickup truck market. But also, he did mention that traditionally people who buy pickup trucks like them for their rugged looks and the rugged style, and that the Cybertruck is pretty off looking. Of course, that's something I don't pay too much mind to, as I think that the cars in general are going to be changing the way they look in the future. Anyways, cars have been looking the same for quite some time, and so I think like a little remodel on them isn't too bad. And of course, we're also seeing a lot of individuals say that the Cybertruck is kind of growing on them. And so as far as aesthetics and looks, I don't pay too much mind to that. But that is an interesting point, that the Cybertruck in the future needs to improve on its charging capabilities, especially for the individuals who purchase pickup trucks for work or business purposes. But with that said, I want us to go ahead and hop into my laptop. This way we can take a deeper look at Tesla, just from a technical perspective, look at the price action, and then also talk about some of the catalyst events that we want to be aware of as we move closer to the end of December. And then just touch on some topics. So with that said, let's go ahead and hop into my laptop. Alrighty, so we are officially in my laptop taking a look at ticker symbol SPY, which is the S&P 500 Index ETF. And I want to start here before we toggle over to Tesla, as there's a specific purpose, right? I believe that right now what we're seeing in the markets is kind of depicting a interesting story, and I want to go ahead and share that with you guys. Now, I do want to apologize in advance, as in the middle of this recording, I am kind of getting a bit of a sore throat, but nonetheless, we'll go ahead and continue. So one of the things I sent out on Thursday, the night prior, I sent out a daily briefing to the Push and Profit private group, as I often do, depicting what is going on in the overall markets. And I said on Thursday night that I expect the broader markets to actually push upwards. Now, it's not because I have some sort of crystal ball, but it was due to the fact that we were having some economic data come out at 8:30, and you could see the markets pretty much started rallying the minute that data came out. And that data in particular was the PCE index report, which is a personal consumption expenditure report, and that's a inflationary gauge. It's actually an inflationary gauge that the Federal Reserve prefers over the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And so what we saw, as I pretty much projected, was that inflation was going to continue softening, and that was something that was seen as positive for the markets. And so we saw SPY push up. Yeah, it did kind of start falling down towards the end of the day, but it still closed higher than the day prior. And so that's definitely something that's good. We like to see the overall markets push upwards, as Tesla is a high beta stock. When, of course, it's not going to always follow the broader markets, as we're going to see today. It did deviate, but we tend to see Tesla follow the broader markets. And so why have I been kind of bullish on the S&P 500? Well, not only from a technical perspective and an economics perspective, things are looking decent for now, but also I want us to take a look at RSP. Many of you may not be familiar with RSP. I've highlighted it in the channel before. This is the S&P 500 as well, but equally weighted. And for those that don't know, when you're looking at the S&P 500 weighted index, right, the regular S&P 500, it puts a lot more weighting on companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Meta, your big seven magnificent stocks. And so that's something that we have to understand, that sometimes you could see the broader markets fall downwards while S&P 500 is pushing upwards, but that's because it's top heavy, because of the mega caps are pushing it. They're holding it up because they have a higher weighting. But when we take a look at the equal weighting S&P 500 and we see that that's been pushing up, well, what does that kind of provide us? That it kind of shows us market breadth, right? Market breadth is kind of like just a barometer of what the overall markets are doing, and we're seeing things actually ascend higher. And so that shows us that the bull case is much more stronger than if the overall S&P 500 was just moving up alone. So to clarify, if you see that S&P 500 SPY push upwards, but then you see RSP push downwards, well, that just shows you things are top heavy. But when you see them both moving upwards in confluence, that signifies a much more stronger move. And so that's why I started being very bullish. You see, November 1st was when we actually saw this huge reversal, and that's why I talked about, well, not why, that's one of the reasons why I said that we're going to have a pretty bullish November, and then, of course, as we go into December, we started seeing some bullish momentum. Of course, there's multiple other factors that I've highlighted within the Push and Profit private group. Some of them are looking at the 10-year treasury yields, etc. I won't get into that in this video right over here, but moving into Tesla, right? So I said that Tesla's a high beta stock, but it doesn't always follow. For example, we saw Tesla push upwards towards the beginning of the day, but it ended up falling downwards and closed slightly lower than the day prior, not by much, right? In fact, if we map it out, Tesla fell down about almost less than 1%, so not anything of any substance, but definitely something interesting to watch. Now, why do I believe Tesla's also falling down, and what are some areas we want to pay attention to? Well, as I've highlighted a lot of times on this channel, we still have this descending trend line over here that Tesla has rejected for quite some time. And also there's a lot more volume relative to price. And so that means, when you're looking at the bars over here on the right hand side, not all brokerages provide this. So you have to make sure your brokerage provides this. Most people are familiar with your traditional volume relative to time. But when you're looking at your volume profile, this is what it's called, volume relative to price. And there's a large bar, right? That means that there's a lot of exchanging between buyers and sellers. And so that's causing consolidation for Tesla, but also it's causing kind of that resistance as well. It's harder to kind of have those big breaks up versus when you're falling down, low volume relative to price, you fall down hard. When you're going up, low volume relative to price, you go up hard, right? You could see that around over here. But we're at these levels where I expect December to kind of push upwards, but not by much. I don't think December is going to be a huge rocket ship month as we have the last few weeks of December. We had a good run for December. I still I still believe things can push upwards, but not by much. And so I want to make that very clear. And I'm sorry if I kind of sound a bit odd as I'm talking. This sore throat is killing me, but I want to make it clear that going into December, the end of it, I do expect things to push upwards, but not by much, especially when you look at this descending trend line. I mean, it's been very prominent for Tesla, right? Tesla has rejected it quite a few times in the past, actually, and we're kind of approaching that area. And as you see, as we get close to it, we kind of start rejecting from it. Now, one of the things I've highlighted in the previous video is that when you pay attention to Tesla, I've highlighted that now, and I'm trying to think of the wording of how exactly I said it, but we're seeing retail pile into Tesla stock individually more than the actual S&P 500. Now that's huge. Now let me clarify that. We're seeing more retail investors, meaning regular, ordinary people, right, like you and I, not institutional hedge funds or funds or whatever. They're pouring money into Tesla more than the S&P 500. Now that's very rare. That's very rare, right? Typically, when people invest their money in the markets, they put it in index funds like the S&P 500 index ETF. We're seeing that big move in Tesla. So Tesla is a big favorite among retail investors. And so the reason why that's of some significance is because that means that we want to pay more attention to the technicals for Tesla than other companies. Why is that? Well, one of the things I've highlighted is that when you're taking a look at other companies like Microsoft or Apple, they have a higher holding from institutional investors, and institutional investors, they look at much more. They look at a lot of things, kind of like what I try to do, right? I look at fundamental analysis, technical analysis, fiscal policy, monetary policy, economic data, alternative data, as well as just catalyst events. I mean, the list goes on what I look at. Now, not most or many retail investors, right? I'm not saying all of them don't do it, but many of them, they don't look at the types of data that I look at, or even more in detail like what the fund managers or these institutional investors look at. They only look at technical analysis. So with that said, Tesla, being that it's held more by retail investors, and retail investors tend to use more technical analysis, well, that could kind of give us this idea that it's going to kind of have this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If everyone else has this descending trend line, all the retail investors who piled more money into Tesla also are looking at things from a technical perspective, and they see this trend line, they're going to want to close, sell their positions as we get closer here, or start shorting, right? Depending if they're trading or investing, or whatever their strategy is. And that's what causes Tesla to continuously get rejected around these areas. Now, we are getting close, and I believe we are going to get closer as we move towards the end of December. But I ultimately don't see Tesla breaking out of this descending trend line just yet. I actually still see some more challenges for Tesla going into the next 2 quarters of 2024. But I'll go ahead and touch on that in the future. Also, I do want to highlight again within the Push and Profit private group, that sale that I talked about earlier, just $21.99 a month for the first 2 months. Afterwards, it reverts back to its original price, but you could cancel at any time. And, if you wanted to break that down, I send my daily briefings pretty much every single day the markets are open, Monday through Friday. Of course, this Monday is going to be an exception due to the markets being closed for Christmas. But you could think of that as pretty much just only $2 for every single daily briefing that I sent out. And most of the individuals within the Push and Profit private group, I could assure, make more than $2 just on the information I share. So definitely take advantage of that discount link in the description below. And with that said, guys, let me know what your thoughts are for Tesla in December. As always, I like to hear what you guys think. Regardless if it's in the short term or in the long term, I'm always interested. So make sure to leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, like this video and share it if you can. And with that said, I'll see you guys on this next video right over here, where I talk more about volume profile. See you guys on that next video. Take care.